Welcome to Conversations from Stritch. Today is Thursday, November 14th. I'm Dr. David Livingston, president of Lewis University, and I'm joined by Dr. Christopher Sint, our provost. It was Veterans Day this week on Monday, and I was really glad to be able to participate in a ceremony over in the aviation hangar. We had an alum of ours who came in from Boston who told an amazing story about his dad and he was a fighter pilot during the Second World War over in the Eastern Front. And it was just an amazing story, really. We had a really good turnout. I think our veterans, both our students and some of our employees, really enjoyed the day. We have these extended community hours. This week, we had it on Wednesday, and we had the All Fest, which is a celebration of cultures, faith, and tradition. Incredible turnout. I think there were 250 students. We had, I think, 8 different vendors. We met over in St. Charles Borromeo, had different readings from different faith traditions, celebrated the cultural richness of our community, both our faculty, staff, and students. And the food that came from different restaurants right around here was really amazing. And I wasn't able to eat all of the different types of food, but I had some really, really good food. So, and was able to sit and chat with some of our students and staff, and it was really great. Chris is attending the Kappa Delta Pi ceremony tonight. Unfortunately, I'm going to be in Chicago at another event, which is the Honor Society for students who are becoming teachers. It's becoming that time of year. I said to a few people, 4 weeks from tomorrow is the start of commencement. So that is incredible to me. I can't believe we're a month away from commencement. But we are now in that mode where I think both Chris and I will be going to different events, many nights of each week for the next month, celebrating our students and their accomplishments in different honor society, getting ready for commencement, and graduation. So it's exciting. This weekend, we are going to be trying to welcome in a new group. So as we say goodbye to certain people at December commencement ceremony, this weekend we will have probably around 250 families on campus who will be visiting on Saturday, trying to learn. Some of these will be juniors in high school, some of them are seniors in high school, some will be transfer students that are at JJC or COD or other colleges in the area, coming in to see about Lewis, learn from our faculty, our coaches, our staff about what an exciting, amazing place it is. So we're looking forward to that. So it's really been, each of these weeks now is incredibly packed, and we'll talk about that when we talk about activities coming up. But you have some exciting news to share?
Yeah, and I just want to say I really enjoyed All Fest yesterday. It was beautiful to see so many students, faculty, and staff together, both at the ceremony as well as having food together. Also, I was just thinking that there were, when I was looking at those images that we showed, that there are our staff, primarily from our student life area, served the food throughout the day, and I'm so grateful for their contributions to All Fest, as well as all the faculty who were there at the ceremony and having lunch with our students. Many of those same faculty and staff are going to be there on Campus Visit Day, so I just want to thank everyone for all the incredible work that's going on, and the intensity of this time of year is really palpable. So it's super fun to be around students enjoying themselves and around prospective students, and it's also a lot of really great work. So we got our final results for the Signum Fidei celebration that happened back on October 19th. We raised more than $320,000 in one evening for the Mission Fund, which focuses on supporting the university's most financially at-risk students. And as we've talked about many times here, it's used for students who are in that moment of need when an unexpected event happens in their lives, or a family event happens where they need a little extra money to get through, where in their budgeting hasn't quite worked out for one reason or another. And we really are glad to have a large mission fund. Really helps support our students. And then as we just saw, the event was super fun, all kinds of great activities and great music and fun throughout the night. So tonight there is an official opening of the new art exhibit at the Wadsworth Family Gallery. Jesse Howard, The Emerging of a Black Diaspora, is on view through November 22nd. His work reflects his own experience living and being raised in Chicago's inner city. And as I said, the reception and gallery talk are tonight beginning at 7 p.m. The Philip Lynch Theater presents the fall musical Puffs, written by Matt Cox. Puffs will have performances starting tomorrow night. There's a performance tonight for employees, and it runs through this weekend and all through next weekend, as well as a performance tonight, as I said. So just to remind you, Puffs is a parody of the Harry Potter book series by J.K. Rowling, but from the perspective of the Puffs, members of the Hogwarts house, Hufflepuff. I'm really looking forward. I think I'm going tomorrow night after the women's volleyball game, which we'll talk about in a minute. The Women in Business Club was recently endowed, and we're so happy and grateful for that, by founder and alumna Sherilyn Muir as a part of the Students at the Center for a Better World campaign. The Women in Business Club provides opportunities for students across disciplines to engage in meaningful discussions, network, and learn from alumni and successful business leaders. So we're so grateful for her support. Lewis University's College of Humanities, Fine Arts, and Communications will honor someone we are very close to here in this area, in this department, Mr. John Carey, Associate Professor of Communications with a Lifetime Achievement Award at COFAC Kickback in March. And we are looking at a live feed of Mr. Carey in the booth, just on the other side of the wall from us here, working hard. This award recognizes individuals who have made transformative contributions to the university. John Carey has spent 4 decades establishing our campus TV and radio station. Is a huge responsibility for much of the equipment that we're using right now, spearheading philanthropic initiatives, as well as fostering community and empowering students. He is a double alumnus of Lewis, as well as an associate professor. So congratulations, John. We're not going to do this every week between now and March, but we will remind people of this great award as the COFAC Kickback approaches in March. And then finally, we celebrated the Adam Smith Award ceremony on October 29th, and this year double alum Larry Tucker was honored with the Alumnus of the Year Award. This award recognizes an outstanding business alum, and Larry exemplifies that, as we have talked about in the last few weeks, with an immense list of professional achievements. He has dedicated nearly 40 years of service to Catholic education. So congratulations to Larry Tucker for that distinguished award. So this is the time of year when there is so much going on. It's a little overwhelming just in terms of all of the cool opportunities that we have to engage in the culture. I know you're going to share just a few of them.
Yeah, I will share a few of them. I just want to comment, I won't be able to be at the opening tonight, but I did go through the gallery the other day, and it's a really incredible show. And I guess, we have so many opportunities for students, but really, when you're able to meet an artist and talk to them about their process, I think this show especially, you mentioned, comes out of his background of being an artist who grew up in Chicago and watching kind of the changes in terms of the African American community throughout Chicago. I think it would be a really great opportunity for people to attend. In terms of events that are coming up this week, today we have several events. We have the Weisenthal Colloquium. Our own Dr. Joseph Kosminski is going to be speaking on that. The Student Health Fair, the gallery talk, as I mentioned, sustainability upcycling tomorrow. So there's a Thanksgiving craft. So kind of taking advantage of reused materials to make crafts. And as Chris already mentioned, and I just want to emphasize, so a big night tomorrow night. Chris and I think, are both going to try to I'm planning on going to the volleyball game against Quincy. This is 1 against 2 in the conference. Very, very important match. Has big implications in terms of postseason. It would be awesome if they won it in 3 or 4, but win it no matter how. And we mentioned a couple weeks ago that Laura Lee had her 500th win. So this would be just another one of those huge wins They have 2 important matches this weekend, and then Puffs is showing, and I hope to just go from the gym, just walk across the street and see the play. So hopefully many people will be joining us. As we move through the weekend, Puffs will be playing both Thursday night, tonight for staff and faculty, tomorrow night, Saturday and Sunday afternoon. Of course, we have Mass on Sunday. And then as you get into next week, we have several events, men's basketball versus Grand Valley State. We have the Rock Jazz Band concert. This is kind of that, as we begin to celebrate students, it's also one of the things, we also have concerts that are at the end of the year, both vocally and in terms of instrumentation, that are able to showcase some of the things that people do. And then we have a vocation and service fair also next week. We have many other events that are happening. The community hour next week will feature improv jam. I'm not able to go. We didn't put on here the improv or open mic night that's happening in Lockport. I think that's tomorrow night. I'm not going to be able to attend because of these other events. And then the Psychology Club is having an event. There's just a lot going on. Muslim Student Association that is going on next week at Community Hour. And then we have some travel in terms of athletics that is happening as well. So men's soccer, big match, GLVC tournament. It's win or go home. That's against UIndy on Friday. And then Saturday, men's and women's swimming will be at Hillsdale and women's basketball at Purdue Northwest. So before I turn it over to you, Chris, I just want to say that I'm going to stay for part of this conversation. And then at some point, I'm just going to disappear. Normally, I don't do that, but I have to be in Chicago, and I have to get in there for 2 o'clock. So you need to make sure that I leave. But you'll introduce our guests. We'll have a little bit of a conversation. I'll leave in about 15 or 20 minutes, and then you can complete it. So really excited for these introductions, and so glad that we have our guests with us today.
Yeah, I'm so excited to introduce our guest. Before I do so, just a reminder that if you have questions that you would like to bring into the conversation, please use the email that you see at the bottom of your screen, askus@lewisu.edu. And remember that you can ask a question right now while the program is live. And if you are watching a recorded version on YouTube, you can also ask a question via that email address, and we can get it to the right guest and get a response, even if it's after the show is over. So I'm going to introduce, we have 3 guests who are all faculty in their first or second years at Lewis, and I'm going to introduce all 3 of them very briefly to begin, and then we'll start talking. So first, Adam Schultze is a second-year assistant professor of mathematics. He enjoys including undergraduate students in his research in the field of algebraic combinatorics. That, by the way, is traditionally on the show the hardest word to pronounce, and we've had 2 of Adam's colleagues on who also have that in their biography, and I should have practiced. Combinatorics, where mathematicians use puzzle-like games to model complex algebra structures. Rebecca Morgan-Frank is a poet, fiction writer, editor, and critic, the author of 4 collections of poems. She has published in places such as The New Yorker and the Los Angeles Review of Books. And she serves on the board of directors of the National Book Critics Circle and has worked with students across the country as a visiting writer and professor before coming to Lewis. And then third, Dr. Shibu Philip is an established project management professional and technology leader with over 20 years of domestic and global business expertise in digital strategy, marketing, operations, and engineering management. He has a doctorate in business administration from DePaul University, and his research is focused in areas of digital marketing, online advertising, and audience development. So welcome all 3 of you. Welcome everyone.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us today. We
you.
really appreciate it. And grateful for all you do with our students, and looking forward to kind of hearing more about how it's been coming to Lewis, but also just what you're excited about in terms of both your teaching and your research. So thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, so to begin, many people in the community haven't met you yet, or I know that's maybe true all the time, but we'd really like to take advantage of this opportunity to introduce you to people who are watching. So maybe we'll start with you, Adam, since you're the most experienced person here at Lewis Professorship. So just tell us a little bit about what you were doing right before coming here, maybe to begin with.
Yeah, so I spent 2 years at St. Olaf College before being here after I finished my PhD. And so I was a visiting assistant professor there. And so I enjoyed that a lot. I enjoyed the liberal arts atmosphere and kind of the smaller school feeling. It's one of the things that I brought me here then, because I enjoyed that feel. And so I think I saw a lot of the things that I liked there at Lewis. And so that's kind of one of the things that brought me here.
And was that part of your own undergraduate experience? Like, where did you grow up, and did you go to school at a small liberal arts place? Or
I did not.
Okay, so maybe that's an interesting thing, because I think some people go to a big R1 school as an undergrad, and then all of a sudden they like get their first job. So tell me about that transition of falling in love with that smaller school.
So I think one of the fun things about being in academics is kind of we get to teach at a bunch of different places and see a bunch of different types of places.
Right.
So I actually went to Baylor University down in Waco, Texas for undergrad, and I studied math there. I started as a secondary education math major. I ended up falling in love with the math more, so I ended up just doing the mathematics. But this way, I still get to teach.
Yeah.
And I did my PhD at a more of an R2 type school at Albany in the SUNY system. And then I got to see a little bit of liberal arts college, and I feel like Lewis is kind of the best of all those worlds, where we still get to have these more scientific majors that usually aren't at liberal arts schools, like the engineering students in my own department, and also, of course, like the aviation. That's big around here.
Yeah,
So
that's great. That's great.
So I know, we make a lot of news announcements, as you just heard on this show, and we often talk about the math department, working collaboratively with students, doing research, and also presenting nationally at conferences about teaching, the teaching of mathematics, which I know many departments at Lewis are really amazing at teaching and about reflecting on the quality of teaching. But I'm just curious, because it does seem connected to why you were interested in Lewis in the first place, but also to a longer history of wanting to be a teacher and like thinking of it as an important craft as opposed to research or other alternatives that professors have. So was that a question?
I don't know if it's a question, but let me I think ask what I think he was asking. So how do you bring students into your own research, and why was that maybe important in terms of the way you thought about this kind of mid-tier place?
So I think the fun word that you got to say, combinatorics. So again, it just means we take these difficult abstract mathematical objects, and we kind of convert them into more of a kind of puzzle game situation. And we're able to kind of, if we understand those puzzles, it gives us an understanding about the higher level mathematics. So
Can
the
I
cool
just ask
thing.
you, so what is a, like when you say that, what is a, I'm not sure everybody, because some of us stopped math at different points. What is a mathematical object? Because I think not many people wouldn't in their head, they might think of like an algebra formula, they might think of, but what do you mean by a mathematical object?
Oh, okay, so I study things called groups, which is anything that is kind of a set of things, and we study how they interact with each other. And so you have your normal things like the integers, and they interact with each other with addition, right? You add two numbers together, you get another number.
Right.
But you can extend this to other fun things as well beyond just numbers. You can look at reflections and things, and how reflections interact with each other. You can kind of look at symmetries and how symmetries interact with each other. And so it's this greater idea of taking two things from a set and looking at how they interact with each other.
Fascinating.
And so, when I say mathematical objects, it's these collections of things that aren't necessarily numbers, and we're studying how they interact. And usually for my research, a lot of the applications are then in theoretical physics. And so looking at applying things there.
Yeah.
And so doing research with students is one way of approaching, teaching at a place like Lewis. But the other part of my question was are you finding the ability or the room to experiment in different ways of teaching and different ways that students learn math?
Oh, most definitely. I think so. Within the math program, all the faculty here are very involved with that. And so currently we've been doing, I've only been a part of it for a year, but the greater group has been doing a lot of research on how we do testing and looking at testing anxiety and alternative methods of testing, rather than just your normal sit down and do like a blue book and the students freak out and it's not an enjoyable experience for anybody. Right. So we've been collecting a lot of data on this and we're kind of doing some statistical analysis now. And at the joint math meetings in January, we'll be presenting a lot of our findings. And the joint math meetings is just one of the large conferences in the U.S. for mathematicians and educators.
So we might come back to you, Adam, but I want to, Morgan, let me ask you a similar, kind of a similar just background question. So kind of where were you in your kind of professional teaching life and writing life before you got here, and how's the transition been? How have you found Lewis to be?
Thank you for that question. Well, I've been a practicing writer and professor for many years now. Last year I was a visiting assistant professor at Cornell University. I'm a bit of a generalist. My books are in poetry, and I have a book of short stories under consideration with a publisher, and I write bi-monthly column of reviews. That what I do in my research life is reflected in what I teach. So I've taught a lot of places and a lot of things. I teach literature, I teach first year writing, I teach creative writing. So I feel really lucky to have that kind of breadth in my own creative and intellectual life, and to be part of that with students. And that's one of the things I really love about Lewis, being part of a department where I get to stretch the different muscles of what I do, and have that. I did many moons ago go to a small liberal arts college, and while I've taught at a lot of different kinds of schools, that's kind of where my heart is, the kind of intimacy that we have with the majors here in the things that we do with them in the events, and seeing familiar faces and looking forward to working with students over time in a way that you do in a small school, whereas in a university sometimes, or I know we're a university, but at a larger university in terms of the liberal arts program here, sometimes someone passes through and you never see them again. And here you'll pass them on campus. You can check in with them and talk to them. So I'm excited for that in my future.
Yeah, that's great.
Do you have any observations? Yeah, I mean, you were just kind of already talking about this a little bit, but having taught at so many different types of institutions, and maybe not so much about the institutions themselves, but do you find it different to work with students who gravitate toward one university or another? Are you noticing differences in the classroom?
Yeah, I think everywhere I teach has a unique demographic based on, for example, one of the things that's really unique here is the flight majors, which has been really exciting. They've just been absolutely delightful in class, and just I always want to ask them questions about, what was your journey to that, and that kind of imagination that takes to dream that I think is not unlike that of a poet, right? Seeing something beyond. I think also I would say in terms of the region you're living in and of where people are coming from. We have students who are coming from Chicago, students from all over Illinois, and also beyond that. So I still feel like I'm still getting to know who. I was in a meeting where they're asking us who is this Lewis student? And I was like, I'm discovering that one student at a time.
It's probably good not to draw conclusions quickly back to that question. But I think when you're a writing teacher of any kind of writing, you learn quickly because they're being asked to talk about their lives.
That's a really great point. I mean, the first assignment that we did in my classes this semester was a personal essay, and I did learn so much about where our students have come from, what they've been through, what they've dreamed of, and I think that's a really wonderful way to kind of see behind the curtain for what students larger narratives is, we sometimes see them in one part of their life here.
Yeah.
So I'm lucky as a writing teacher to get to see more of that.
Which reminds me, parenthetical comment.
Yeah,
I think
go ahead.
in the schedule, I can't remember if you said it out loud, that we just looked at, the writing showcase.
The first year writing
First year
showcase
writing
is
showcases.
on Tuesday,
Yeah.
and it is, just gives you a taste of what these students have done in the first half of their first semester of college, which is pretty impressive. And they'll each be reading a little excerpt and talking about their writing process.
Yeah, and I know we've both gone to it several times,
Yes.
and you really do learn a lot in 45 minutes or an hour.
Right.
Listening to so many different students reveal things about themselves through their beautiful writing.
It's a great event. So I just want to share. I spend a decent amount of time with executives, successful people who often are our alums, and I would say that the greatest quote unquote complaint that they have is that people we hire don't know how to write. Now, I'm interested in whether you have any sense of changes and ways that you've maybe modified the way you teach based on how people come into the college environment. So, they're trying to learn how to communicate, and they would say, they just can't write a memo. And I think they're always exaggerating. That's my person, because I always push back a little bit. But you're working with students, and you've been teaching at the university level for more than a decade, for a while. So have you seen any changes, and have you modified the way that you teach in order to address those changes in terms of what students come out of high school with?
We could talk all day about this, because there's so
No,
much. It's a great question, though. I think I'm always changing. In my teaching statement, I say this and I mean it. I never teach the same course twice, because not only are the demographics changing, but the world we're living in is changing. Not to open up, a big conversation about this, but what is new to us all right now, for example, is AI.
Now,
and
I didn't raise, I just want to know, because I raise this all the time. I was going to ask that
It's
question.
noted.
And I know that Chris would have said, why did you raise that again? But I'm glad you raised it, Morgan,
Just
because
to
I didn't
leave it
have
on the table there
I
as
was
an
actually
example
thinking about
of
raising it
change.
myself. And you've
so how has
you've
that?
actually
I mean,
written
what are-
about, sorry to interrupt, but
yeah.
you maybe could answer that question first, or both. But I know that you're, just from reading some of your poetry and reading the titles of your work, you actually have been interested in automation and in non-human intelligence for a long time.
Yeah, my most recent poetry book, Oh You Robot Saints, is looking kind of the long history of automata and robots, and looking forward to AI. And when it was published in 2021, I was doing events with a medieval historian, Ellie Truitt, who is just amazing, really influenced my book. And we would talk about, why aren't people not talking about AI more? And that was 2021. And then all of a sudden, TP chat dropped, and the conversation has changed. And I think
Very active.
one of the things, I guess I would just say, right now my students are writing about AI images, and I keep saying to them, the world is changing underneath your feet, and let's think and talk about this, because you're the ones who are going to be shaping how we consider and use and apply these within all your fields.
I know, I'd actually like to ask everyone that question, but maybe we'll introduce Shibu a little bit before we do that. So tell us a little, and my sense of your meeting you and talking to you before is that you've had a rich professional life and then went to get a doctoral degree leading to this career. So tell us anything about all of that.
Yeah, so I come here as a professor of practice, essentially coming from the industry. So I've had close to 20 years working for digital first companies like Amazon, Yahoo, and AOL. So been through the whole internet wave as it started, and closing it with Amazon. One of the big things I've always tried to do, and why I did my doctorate, was to kind of bridge that gap between theory and practice. So that's what I aim to do in my classes also. And project management being a field which is so crucial across industries. And I think it's very important that students, especially who go out of the master's program, are able to kind of hit the ground running and able to kind of help make sure that their projects can succeed and can manage them well. So my hope is to bring a lot of my experience, my stories in my class into my classroom and say, hey, these are not just theoretical concepts, but hey, this is actually being applied in real life, and this is how I use them, and helping them kind of just get prepared.
Yeah. And then tell us about the decision to go back to graduate school, or to go to graduate school.
Yeah. So I went to graduate school at DePaul, and DePaul had this great doctorate program, which was mainly focused for people in the industry who can bridge that gap between industry and practice. As I was getting into the industry, also I think I was working closely with the Project Management Institute, which is the general overall body which certifies students and executives for project management careers. And I wanted to figure out how can I come back to kind of like, I would say, mold the next generation of business leaders. So that was start of my program. And I think as I went to DePaul, I had really good professors who taught me new ways to teach that I had traditionally known, and that's kind of ignited my passion to go to teach. And so I started being a visiting professor at DePaul. I taught not only the classes in Chicago, but also taught the international program in Bahrain. So I love doing that. And so last year I decided, 20 years in industry is good. I want to give my next 20 years to academics, and that's the start of this journey.
It's so interesting. So it might be useful. So one thing we did not plan, that it just occurred to me, is that math and writing and reading have been university subjects since the BCs, and project management is not, has not. It's probably 30, 40 years old as a discipline in the university. So you might just maybe share a little bit about what it is and how people study it.
Yeah, so, project, you could define project as anything which is something unique, which has a unique start and end, and it has a unique cost, scope, and time. And normally when you think about it, that's like a complicated definition, but it was the PMI official definition. But we all manage projects. Think about buying a home, doing your whole classroom assignment. You plan for it, you have a start and end. But we normally tend to do that based on just what we know, or just what you call like I wouldn't say learning it as we go in life. We do things, but as you go into organizations, there is a method to this. There's sometimes you call like organized chaos. There's this one person who is leading everybody or leading the charge, and as you become leaders, also if you look at your resume and anything, most of the times you're judged by the projects that you lead. So project management, as you enter the industry, has become big, because that is what is actually defining you as the exec. What is your wins? What is your losses? So project management as a subject teaches you how to manage those projects, how to think about communication, how to motivate your team, and think about the risk, etc. At the end of the day, we sometimes refer to it as saying it's a techno-social approach, where there's a technology side to it, where there are tools and techniques that you learn from project management, how to manage the projects. But there's also a social component to it, because many times you're managing vast number of teams with sometimes not even direct influence, where you have direct influence. So that social component comes in equally to motivate the team, get them up to speed, and make sure that they're delivering on the timelines, and making sure people deliver. And you take that from launching a space shuttle. Take my biggest example is Apollo 13, the space shuttle, which is considered a successful failure. But that's at the end of behind the scenes, there's always a project manager running it. So small things as building a home, to as much as space shuttle launches, everywhere you'll see project managers either running the show. Many times they may not be in the up front and center, but they are there behind, and they are the ones pulling the strings and making sure everything's working correctly.
Yeah, it's really helpful. So one thing that it occurs to me to ask all three of you is about interdisciplinary relationships, because this is true for many fields in higher ed, but I think sometimes people who are not working in higher ed all the time, are not really familiar with it, think of all these subjects as kind of silos, where you go and you learn math, or you go and you learn project management. And all three of these fields that you specialize in are really dependent on others, for content or for just to do novel and interesting work. You really need others from other fields. And I'm just curious, and I know you've collaborated with composers, and math, especially data science, but math in so many ways has to do with the content. What is being counted, and what conclusions are you sharing with others? And obviously, as you just described, it's project management is both a kind of science that relates to mathematical calculations, but it's also a kind of psychology and organizational development all mixed into one. And so I wonder if how much you've reflected on that, or if you have examples of how you collaborate with others from other fields. Shibu, why don't you go first?
Yeah, I can start. I mean, the fun thing about in my classes, I get students from all over, from including students working on the nursing program, trying to become administrators. I have engineering, supply chain, marketing. So I think there's a huge variety of students that come in, and as people running the academic side of things, I think there's huge areas of collaboration. I'll take an example of just marketing. Every marketing campaign needs a project manager who does the mix of the creative side of things, the analytical side of things, and finally then the project management side of things. So I will say the areas are endless. Currently what we are doing, at least in our department, is we are working to partner a lot with the Project Management Institute and their local chapter here, which is the PMI Chicagoland. And actually all three of our professors who we teach project management, we actually all serve as mentors for their program, and we work with different students or different mentees from that board who come into the PMI chapter and helping them. Currently, I'm helping someone who's in the legal profession and helping them set up their whole project management office. And similarly, we have other projects going on where we're working as part of the larger PMI body to help out.
And real quick, what is PMI?
Oh, sorry if I didn't. It's called the Project Management Institute. It's the central body in the United States which certifies students and execs for project management, in the field of project management, or having certifications in project management.
That's great. So it's sort of it's the national accreditor.
It is. And the really important fact to know, especially for Lewis, and this is one thing that attracted me to the MS Project Management program here, is that we are among the few select universities which are approved by the Accreditation Council at Project Management Institute. So I think overall, worldwide there's only 170 degree programs which are approved, and Lewis is approved. That shows the level of how superior the quality of the course here, and the emphasis they play to make sure that students coming out of Lewis are ready for project management careers.
Yeah, that's great. So Adam, any thoughts about interdisciplinary collaboration?
Yeah, so I think, even within our research, of course, but then I think also within our classrooms, it's a lot of fun as well, especially teaching some of these more interdisciplinary type courses within the Gen Ed. I teach a course called Win, Lose, or Draw, which is all about probability and counting. And so the students at first, they kind of scoff at it. They're like, oh, we're just going to count things. And it's no, it's actually very difficult in the end. But then throughout the course of the entire semester, it's students from kind of every different college and from every different discipline. And we get to see how these probabilities can be used in their own discipline.
Right.
And this idea of counting things can be used within their own discipline.
So the class has students in majors all over the campus, right?
So I think it's cool that they also get to interact and see what other people are doing, and see this, how kind of for this class, how math is at the core of everything that they're doing.
Yeah, and so much of what we do at Lewis is about application, and how are you going to use this in your profession, and so that seems like a really great class. I don't remember what win, lose, or draw is. It's a game show.
It is.
And I don't know if I've ever watched it.
I will admit that I've never
Oh,
watched
okay,
it.
then we don't have to talk about it.
Well, that's what it's
but
named
it's a good
after.
title. It's a catchy title.
It's yeah. So it was actually created by a professor at Butler University.
Oh, really? Okay.
And one of our mathematicians here worked with her and taught the course
So it's kind of
there.
a standard.
And
I've seen that name.
We've brought it here,
Yeah,
and it's been a very fun course.
That's cool. And so how do you both feel, let me go to the AI topic, and we'll put it on record that I brought it up by myself. Like how, both of, I mean, all of our disciplines are being impacted by it, of course, but how much have you thought about it in terms of, not in terms of necessarily teaching or student work necessarily, although that's part of it, but how is it changing the fields, when you can do, I'm just off the top of my head, it seems like a lot of the calculation work, I mean, a calculator, I guess, is a technology that has changed things from even when I was a child or something, and so this is obviously a big extension of that, but it feels like mathematicians have been thinking about this for decades and decades.
So often in our math research, we write code to kind of simulate things and to help us gain knowledge about the bigger picture.
Right.
And so often that takes a long time, and when you're trying to do student research, sometimes the first half of the semester is just writing this code, and then you have very little time to actually play with it. But I think with AI being able to write some of this code now, I've had students last spring that were working with me, and he was able to have AI get it going, get the ball running.
Yeah.
And I always have to explain to them, like, you still have to understand what's happening. AI can't just write all of the code, because it's just a foundation, and then you have to kind of make it work for our situation.
Right.
So they're able to kind of make things move a little bit faster, where we don't spend so much time coding. AI can get the ball running for us.
So here's my question, and Morgan had to step out, but I have a kind of similar question for her, and she and I are in the same field, so it's more intuitive to me. So how much of it do you feel like students need, now this is a learning question, like how much of the basic how to do algebra, how to, like, without the aid of AI, is necessary or helpful in order for them to even ask the right questions or to draw the right conclusions? And where do you draw that line? Like, how much of it can we, of what's kind of traditional calculation, can we kind of cede to AI and not teach, and how much of it do they need to at least know how it's done before they let AI or computers do it?
Yeah. So I think, kind of like you were saying, before AI, right, to start, kind of a test of your own knowledge of something within math is can you tell a computer to do it?
Yeah.
Because if you're able to tell a computer how to algorithmically figure something out, then you're showing your own understanding in explaining it to the computer, right?
Yeah.
And so being able to write this code is kind of showing that you understand it, which means you have to understand it first.
Yeah.
With AI now, you have to now, on the flip side, also have this algebra understanding and your basic math understanding to make sure that it's doing what you told it to do, because it's not that smart, and it does make mistakes, and
something has to check
and you
the
have
work.
you have to be there to guide it.
Yeah.
So of course, I think that, right, we can never not learn the basics. We have to always make sure we have that understanding of math.
Yeah, I feel like I hear that from a lot of different disciplines where it's sort of, you need to, even if you're not recalculating everything, because obviously you wouldn't be asking AI if you were going to recalculate everything, but you have to know it well enough to have an intuitive reaction to the result. You have to have a feel for the work well enough to go, oh yeah, that feels right, or oh no, that's definitely a misunderstanding of what it was being asked to do. Yeah.
Yeah, my viewpoint is that AI is just a natural progression. So my undergraduate was computer science, and starting at that time, many years back itself, artificial intelligence was there, and it just was not accessible for everyone. So I think this is a natural progression, just like we have the internet wave, now is the AI wave, and I think we all need to learn how to make best use of it. And I think just like how calculators came, computers came, there was always the skepticism in the start, but then everyone got with the program, moved forward. I think that's the same we need to employ with AI. And with AI, I think the big point that comes in is what they call prompt engineering. You need to ask the right questions or phrase prompted correctly to get the desired output. So that's a big skill I think students, execs all need to start building to make sure you're able to use AI in the right way. And I agree with you completely that, I think there's a lot of questions like, will they take my job, or will I not be having a job future? Should I do AI? But I think AI is going to come in every discipline. It's going to make our jobs more efficient, and it's going to help us do things which we did earlier in an hour. It could help us do it in like 5 minutes or 30 minutes. But again, always the caveat is ask the right questions. For that, you need to know the basics, and you need to understand how things. So I think you could have people who don't know anything putting things in AI and might look good as output, but it's only when you start asking the right parameters, right questions, you're going to see the right answers come in. And from a project management standpoint, like the Project Management Institute, which is our central body, has kind of embraced AI completely. We're building our own chat GPT version because we have normally something called the Project Management Body of Knowledge, which is like this big book which everybody refers to occasionally. Now that is got its own chat interface, and we can ask questions directly to it, and it'll give us based on the body of knowledge. So no more scrolling the book and figuring out, hey, through the index of what did we call it the PMBOK, the Project Manager Body of Knowledge, what does it say? So in those ways, we expect a lot of changes happening in the project management field, and I think we're already starting to equip a lot of our students with AI classes, which is actually even prescribed by the Project Management Institute as part of our courses, so that when students graduate, they are actually what you call AI ready, or it's not something they fear, but they know how to work with it and make sure they can get optimal results.
Yeah, that's great. And I love the way you talked earlier about how project management is kind of about leadership and being able to lead a division or a group through the principles of project management. It's not, I think sometimes people think it's like how to write a project plan or something like that. So you can type into AI, like here's a goal, write a project plan for it, and it will do it for you. But that's a really small percentage of the actual work of a
Having said that, so like back to my point of prompt engineering, if it was one of our Lewis MSPM students, they would write, give me a project plan with these parameters specifically, and that's where that basic knowledge comes in. It's like rather just giving it a ChatGPT and having maybe different options, you're very clear, you know the basics, and you're like, hey, I want a communication plan, or I want a project plan with these parameters. So then I know it's complete, and I know it's addressing everything completely. Yeah.
Wonderful. So we're out of time, but could each of you maybe share one thing that I didn't ask you, or that you're looking forward to through the rest of the year? Some conference or event or something that you're doing in a class or something like that. Does anything something come to mind?
Sorry,
that's kind of a hard question.
I think I'm excited for. I think we have this SURE program.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to be applying to do a project with that this
Summer undergraduate research experience.
Exactly. Yes. And so I think I'm very excited to start getting that up and going. So I have project plans that I'll have to type up and apply for, and I hope to work with some students over the summer, and I think that'll be a lot of fun.
That's great. It's such a great program.
Yeah, for me, I've identified a lot of research areas which I want to start going through and getting started. So I'm looking forward to that. But even more for me personally, I think what I'm looking really forward, as you all mentioned, is commencement and graduation. It'll be the first time I'm going to be sitting as part of this thing. So I'm really, excited, and for a lot of the students I've taught who are going out, and I wish them the best. And I'm looking forward to see kind of the great things they're going to do once they graduate. So I'm very excited to be part of those graduation ceremonies.
That's exciting. It's a really special a moment in their lives to be a part of. It never changes. It's always just amazing.
I just put in my order form for my regalia.
Oh, good.
So
I'm glad.
it'll be my first.
Wonderful. Look forward to seeing you both there. So thank you both so much. Thank you to Morgan. And we are going to say goodbye. And that reminds me that for everyone who's doing that beginning of the end of the semester, really, really hard work moving into the completing the semester, or especially those who are finishing their Lewis career this semester. Best of luck to you, and I hope to see many people at all the wonderful events that we have going on over the next few weeks. And we will see you next week. Have a wonderful weekend, and best wishes to you and your families.